Lesson 3 assignment. So number 1 is exactly the same as the notes. So what I'm going to tell you is when you get to numbers 3 and 10, you can refer back to this problem to help you. Okay, so number 2 is going to be similar to 13 and 14. So when you get to those two numbers, you can refer back to this page and it'll help you with that problem. So I need to make sure that it kind of fits in all together. Okay, so your setup may look a little bit different, but it's the same material. Okay, so you have 3 pens and 2 notebooks that cost $8.25. And then 2 pens and 3 notebooks cost $8. So with your 2 highlighters, basically this is what we're going to do. We're going to set up 2 different equations. Now, I'm going to highlight this very first sentence. And this is going to be my equation that I write right here. Now, this very next sentence gives me the next one. Now, what I'll tell you is, of all the setups, this is probably the easiest of the ones to set up because it gives you specific things for you to look for. So basically what we're going to say is on this, we're going to call this P for cost of pens and N for cost of notebooks. And I'm going to put NB for notebooks. So here's the equation. Hopefully you know when you go to the store and you buy something, it adds up all the things that you buy to give you a total. So it's telling you that you've purchased 3 pens and 2 notebooks. So 3 pens plus 2 notebooks is going to give me that $8.25. Now your second part is very similar. This time it's telling you that it's 2 pens and 3 notebooks. So 2 pens plus 2 notebooks. And that's going to give you $8. So sometimes the EOC will ask you just to set up like this. Other times it won't. Sometimes it'll ask you for specific numbers. So this is where the solve equation comes from. So basically here's what we're going to do. We're going to move the X, change the sign, divide by the number in front of the Y. Okay, so in this case, we're going to make the P the X. So when it moves over, and I want you to stay with me on here because I'm going to kind of cheat this formula a little bit. If you'll keep in mind, this is 8.25. When I move this over, this is going to be a negative 3P. Okay, hopefully you're still with me. Now, technically, we're dividing by the number in front of the Y. Well, in this case, it's in front of N. We're dividing by 2. Now, we just spoke about when you're solving, you don't have to simplify. So I'm going to leave this, and this is going to be my N1. Now, I'm going to do the same thing for the next one. So here, I'm going to circle this over. So I'm looking at N equals 8.00 minus 2P, and then I have to divide by the number in front of the Y. And I just realized this number should be a 3. So I apologize. This was 3 notebooks. So hopefully someone was saying in their head at least, that should have been a 3, and you would have been correct. Okay. So now we gotta go a step further. So we've done the hard part, if you will, in solving. So now I'm gonna go to the calculator. I'm gonna put these 2 things in the calculator. So let me see if I can make this to where you can see both. Okay, so I'm gonna go to y equals, and I'm gonna type in this problem. So alpha y equals, ny equals, alpha y equals, enter. So the green button and y equals will get you that fraction. So I'm going to go 8.25 minus 3x, because remember you can only put the x in the y equals, divided by 2. Now when we go to graph this, it's going to be really slow, but that's okay because it'll eventually get us what we need. Okay, so here's the two equations, they match. So I go second trace. We're looking for the intersection, so I'm going to press 5. Let the calculator graph the two lines first before you start pressing enter. And so it looks like it's going to show us the intersection. Okay, so now I'm going to press enter 3 times. Because remember, we want that word intersection. Okay, so here's what I need you to know. This is where it's a little bit different than what we did on the notes. So here, let me see if I can write this to where you can see. So here your x equals 1.75 and your y equals 1.50. Even though there's not one there, we're talking about money, so it needs that 0. Okay, so x in this case was the p. So we would say the pens cost $1.75 and the notebooks cost, remember that's the y, 1.50. And that's your answer. So again, we'll go over it again. This is a little different because I know we normally simplify here, but trust me that this is the faster way, is just to leave it like this. Okay? Alright, so again, remember these numbers are like numbers 12 and 13. So hopefully y'all got everything down. So now we're going to go to number 3. Okay. So there are 197 students at TCHS. The number of girls is 52 less than the number of boys. How many girls and how many boys are there? Okay. So if you'll remember, there's a couple things on this one that we talked about already. We talked about the fact that it said that the number of girls, so that's mentioned first. And I'm not sure why I did this, but I went with the second sentence first. Because this is where you guys tend to mess up if you mess up. Okay, so this says the number of girls. So we're just going to use G and B. And this is going to be number of girls. I don't feel like writing the word of. You can if you want to. Okay, so the number of girls, number of boys. So the number of girls, so all of this just means G. The word is, you guys should remember, it means equals. Now here's this less than. Okay, here is where y'all are going to mess up if you mess up. Do you see how it says 52 less than the number of boys? And the number of boys we just know is B. So I know that there's going to be a minus sign because of the word less than. These are switch words. And I told you earlier that whatever's mentioned first comes first. So the girls are mentioned first. Now we're going to switch the number 52 and B. They're going to switch spots. So B, or 52 was first. Now it's going to go on the second spot. And the B was second, so it's going to go on the front. And that's that equation. Now, let's look at the first sentence. So there are 1,996 students. Okay, so there's only two types of students. You're either a boy or you're a girl. There's no other gender out there in this problem. Boys and girls. Those are the only two options you're given. Okay, now that's where that equation comes from. So the number of girls plus the number of boys gives me the total number of student body. Okay, now this one's a little bit easier because it already gave you which one needed to be solved for. So on this problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the B on this one because G is already solved for on this equation. So when I move that B over, I have 196, sorry, I keep seeing 196, 1,996 minus B. And then that's going to be G1, and G2 is going to be B minus 52. Oh, sorry guys. Okay, so now we're going to put this in the calculator. Okay, so 1996, I'll put that in Y1. And remember, you cannot put B in there, so you have to put X. And then this is going to be X minus 52. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to press graph. We're going to make sure that we can see the two lines intersect. So hopefully you can see that little yellow line, or that yellow circle, stop twisting, which means it's not working anymore, which means we cannot see the intersection. So we have to press zoom. So zoom's right here, and we're going to press 3 because we're going to zoom out. So as you can see, it's working. So see if you can see the intersection. You can't, so you have to press enter again. So there's one line. Still can't see it, so I got to press enter again. So this is one we're going to have to zoom out a whole bunch, it looks like. Oh, there's the blue line. And there's the intersection. So on this one, we zoomed out a whole lot. So sometimes you may have to do that. Okay, so second trace, we're looking for the intersection. So when we press enter, we're looking for right here, this word to say intersection. So here, our intersection is, let me get this where I can see it. So our X is 1024 and our Y is 972. Okay, so in this case, we're saying that the girls were the Y's and the boys were the X's. Because if you look at where they're at, this is the Y spot and this is the X spot. So our answer would be 1,024 boys. Oh, sorry guys, you can't see that. And 972 girls. Okay, so just to let you know, this, when you get to number 9, this is one that you can refer back to. So again, just like before, you're solving, put it in the calculator. This one we had to zoom out a whole bunch. Okay, so that wraps up today. We'll continue this on Tuesday.